In this video, we're going to look at some of the assets that come with Cryengine and the different ways that we can access all of those. Now, one of the first things I would like to do for my little scene here is to add a little wrecked up boat down here. So one of the ways we can access this is by going over to Objects in our roll-up bar and Brush. And in this case we will want Vehicles, Fisher Boat, and Fishing Boat. Again, we're going to make sure that we have Follow Terrain just so that it doesn't disappear on us when we pull it in there. Bring this down somewhere around here. And we can do some adjustments on this to make it look a little more like we want. Maybe something like that. Little drug up on shore. Water coming in, pretty well destroyed. We can live with that. Alright, and that's an easy way to get some simple assets in. Other things we can look at are assets that are a little more complicated to deal with, which I will show to you and then show you in some cases how we get around that. So we're going to stay in our brush section and we're going to go to Structures, Buildings. We're going to come down to Lighthouse. Now at first you might see Lighthouse A and Lighthouse B and think that they are two different kinds of lighthouses. That would be incorrect. This is one lighthouse in about 10 different pieces. And that can really be a pain. So the first thing we're going to do is bring in Lighthouse A, which is our base. We're going to snap to our terrain, bring this in, and there we go. Very nice. And we're going to keep coming back to that, only we're going to do a little bit different trick. The first thing I'm going to do is get the interior base that goes with that. And we're going to drag this in, and that's fine. I'm going to come up here to Align Selection, click that, and then click my base. And it's going to bring that right in, lined up with that. And then we can just continue to do that for everything else. And if we're building something like this, excuse me, I highly recommend that you work with interior pieces first, just so you can see what you're doing a little bit easier. Now, you can see that lined it up, but it didn't align it vertically, so you're going to have to do a little work here, which is not that hard to get in there and do. Right about there. And you can continue doing that, so on and so forth, until you have your structure built. That's all well and fine, and it's a good thing to know, but in the case of our lighthouse, that is very not what we're going to do. Because we can, in the case of some items, do what we want to do a little bit different way. Now, if we come up to our database, and in this case, we're going to go to our prefabs library, and we're going to load a new library, and we're going to load, oddly enough, props. And in there, we're going to have some houses and some vehicles. And in this case, we're going to have a lighthouse. So we can grab our lighthouse and make sure that we have our terrain selected. Grab our lighthouse, bring it in. Slap it down. Close this out. Decide exactly where I want to have this, and you can see we've got lights and everything already in here because it's a prefab. So we will bring this down a little. Rotate that around the way we want it. Bring it back here. And once we go in, and we game test, you can see we're all set up, doors already in place and everything else. And I promise one of these videos, guys, I'll remember to mute all this. So when we go out, right down here in the corner you can hit mute and get rid of that sound. And there we go. We can go back in. And we have our doors working. F to use that. Everything's already in place. It's all looking very nice. Everything's well lined up. And it's all working just fine. So that was the easy way to get our lighthouse into place. So now we have our lighthouse added to our level. Let's look at adding another house in here. Let's go in and down here in this back beach, over where they might like watching the turtles, let's bring in a fishing house. So once again, we can go to brush. This time we're going to come up to fishing houses under buildings, and we're going to grab fishing house C. Snap our terrain, bring that in. That looks pretty awesome just like that. Got our little door here. Doorway, I should say. We don't have a door yet. Let's figure out exactly how we want to do that. That'll work. We can always come in and adjust our terrain a little bit. Why don't we look at doing that? We can modify, we can raise or lower. Ooh, that was a lot. We'll bring this up just a hair. And there we go. Can raise this up just a little more again. Now we need a door on here, and more importantly, we need this door to function. Now we could just bring in a door that goes with this, say fishing door C, which, see, that terrain thing, you lose track of it. Fishing door C, bring that in, put it in place, but we're not going to be able to open or close it, and that's going to be a problem. So there's a different way to go about doing that. So once we have this here, we're going to go over to Entity instead, and we're going to come down to Doors, and down to the bottom Door Entity. once again to our terrain. We're going to bring this in. That's all well and fine. We'll bring her out here. Now the first thing we can see, besides that it's sticking into the sand, is that we need to rotate it. And we'll rotate that down here to a full 90. Bring this up. And we're not going to put it too close into place because there's a problem. This door doesn't fit. The standard door that comes in with your entity is not the right door. We need the door that goes with this building. So we're going to come down here under Entity Properties, and 4 down is Model. We're going to click on that, click our little folder, and we're going to go hunt down our door. Now we see we have Fishing House Door A selected. That's the one that's already in there. But we have Building C. So we want Fishing Door C. So we're going to open that. And now you can see we have an entirely different door. One that looks like it'll work. So this one we will rotate into place. And we'll get this positioned. Like all things, this can be a little bit of a pain. Switch over to 0.1 for our speed here. Now, that's not entirely awesome yet. That looks pretty good. So now we have our door entity in there. We should test that out and see how it works. So we come up, we hit F, and that door is working perfectly. Great. Now we may come at some point and bring something in and it's not working so perfectly. Let's see what we can do about that. So perhaps we came in, we had our door, and we come down because our door is not rotating the right way. See, right now we have a range of 90 degrees, and when we click that it opens 90 degrees. But what if we had wanted it to open out? Well, we could change this to a negative 90 degrees, and that would work just fine. We don't want that, so we will put it back. And also, when we go in, although I have it muted, you would have found out there's no sound to go with this. So let's unmute. And let's look at our sounds down here. We have a sound on move. We can click in there. Go see what we can find. And maybe destructibles. Oh, I'll bet that it's in objects. There we go, doors. So we can have a metal wire door open. We could loan that up, and you could hear it in there. Now we have sound on stop, and we have sound on stop closed. Now in the case of this door, I don't really want a sound on stop. I just want it to make that creak when it opens. And then when it starts up, it'll make the same creak, but when it shuts, it's closed, then I want there to be a sound. So we can go look in there. We don't really have that. So sometimes you have to get a little bit creative and think about where else you could maybe go find this. So we'll look under the Humvees, and we have a door close. Yeah, I like that sound. So now, once again, we can go out and give this a try. Very nice. And if we close it, perfect. So that's how we set a door entity into one of our brush entities. And that's working very nicely. Last but not least, I want to take a look at the asset browser. Now, when we get over here, we can see that although from the player perspective down here, it's not too bad, we do have a lot of tiling textures. What can we do about that? Well, we can bring in some other stuff. So we're going to go up here to this little set of boxes, which is our asset browser, and we're going to open this up. And I'm just going to bring in a couple. I'm not going to be too particular about it. But you should take some time with your level and finish this out a little bit. So we have this huge list of textures, and the easiest way to get through all this is just to keyword search. So let's do rock. And you can notice up here I uncheck sound and textures just to make it easier. So we've got a few rocks in here. Now one of the things to note is that we often have the same rock, but we have ones with different LODs, and then often have one that has all of them. Beach Red Big with all three of our LODs in it. Those are the ones that you want to grab. So we can come in here and we can maybe start to use some rocks just to break up some of that tiling. In fact, why don't we put in cliff? Oh, that's not going to work. We'll get rid of rock. Still not liking that. Alright, we'll keep rock. We'll look down here. Yeah, well, maybe beach rock will work. Cliff rock big. Yeah, kind of whatever we want to do. Maybe this rock wall. Let's bring that in. So we're going to snap our terrain. Always snap your terrain. We're going to drag this in. Somewhere where we can see it here. And just see what we have here. That is a very brown rock. I think I might like the other side of that better, I'm not sure, but we'll put this in here. Anyway, we can play with different rocks. I do hate that. That's one-sided. But you can just play with different ones. See what you like. Maybe a beach rock. Turn on our terrain. Pull that in. And moderately better. Not a lot. Anyway, you can see you can start to just put some detail in there and break up those textures. So play around with that, putting in some rock, maybe some more vegetation or other plants individually, and see what you can do to make your level look a little bit less like it's tiling all over the place. Maybe something like that. See what we get there. Spend a lot of time rotating, spinning. And by the time we bring in a few of these, it'll start to not look too bad. Start to bring these chunks in. We can start to hit Control C and make copies. Change that up a little bit. And by the time that we do a few of these, you can see where the fact that textures didn't really match up will start to matter less and less, because the texture you put over here will be more of a background texture. And we can make good use of that. So play around with that a bit, touch up your level, add in some props and stuff, and that'll about do it for us for looking at our brush entities. I'll see you in the next video.